take over from here, bud.
Thanks. Thanks,
This
brother.
meeting is being
Yep.
recorded.
All right, gang. How's everyone doing today?
Good.
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 Everyone got your coffee?
Yeah.
Not yet.
Various forms of coffee. I see some of my guys on here. So I will ask that I get some good participation from the group. It's very, very hard to share value when you're getting blank stares. You don't have people coming back with questions. I would even be happy for you to fully disagree with me or tell me I'm a knucklehead or anything. That's at least something I can work with instead of just being quiet. Basically, even head nods or head shakes, I can help. I can read the room a little bit. Thanks, Bogdan. So I'm going to give you like a really brief background on me because I want to save as much time as possible to get into the stuff I want to share with y'all. So I have been with the company for 8 years. I have been around the block. I've worked in the bank model. I've worked in the broker model, and I've worked in this model. I much prefer this model. This is the only one that allows for true freedom. I think in those other models, you always have someone else with their hand on your faucet, and they can cut off the leads whenever they want to. And it always made me feel a little shaky. In this model, I don't even really worry about the cycles of the market. I don't worry about rates. I don't worry about recession because I've made money successfully in all the markets. So the lead guys and the bank guys are scared out of their mind right now, and we just get to keep on selling purchase. So it's a beautiful thing. I have 2 kids. My wife and I just celebrated our 17th anniversary up in Blue Ridge, Georgia. We went and got a massage. Yeah, thank you. It was good. Unfortunately, it coincided with her father's 70th birthday, so we really celebrated that all weekend. But we snuck away for a little we time. I will tell you, and my team that's on here knows this, I much prefer talking about mindset. That is where I like to live. I like to live talking about, people going through amazing changes in their life using this company because I experienced it. I had a full transformation when I got here 8 years ago. My life looks so much different than it did before I got here. I was a worn out, overworked, well-paid loan officer before, and now I am truly happy. And I like talking about that, but I know that y'all had a lot of that your first 3 or 4 meetings. So I wanted to make the big switch and go into a tactical place with y'all. And I will just preface this with, I don't know for sure that any of this is right. And I'm open for anyone that wants to question or disagree with it. But I want to tell you, this is what my team is doing. This is where we're leaning. I'm a little bit of I kind of nerd out on the sales cycles. And I think it's fascinating how our business changes from year to year. Like the things that we were doing 20 years ago when I got into the business are so much different than what we're doing now. And our value proposition from 20 years ago is extremely different from our value proposition now. And I find it fascinating. I've got a coach, Patty's using the same coach, actually, Richard, and he uses the term framework. It's all about frameworks. And I'm like, when I really think about it, the word framework is so perfect for what we're trying to put into place because it's a plan. It lets us get to a place where we are robotic and we wake up every morning and we know what our job is for the day. And then we get to go home and go to sleep without stress because we know we got our job done. Without the framework, you're just waking up and trying, right? And trying ain't going to get you that far. You want to put your efforts into the right place, and you want to follow a framework with all things that you do. So there's two specific frameworks that I want to talk with y'all today about. The first one is the business planning cycle, and the second one is going to be our sales cycle. Okay, and for those of you that nerd out on this kind of stuff too, I'm even going to go through like what it used to be, and then we're going to talk about what it is now, and then we're going to actually talk about why it's changed. Okay, so why we put the changes in that we put in. So I'm going to share my screen for a second. I'm going to check with one of y'all to make sure that my my screen is shared. Let's see. All right. I just basically have a blank place to take notes. Sharon, will you give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen? Okay, is it big enough?
Yes.
You can read that right there. Okay, cool. I'll make it a let me make it a little bigger just for fun. 16. All right, so for business planning, which is generally done at the beginning of the year or in November, in December, in January, the first thing we always did was our goal planning, right? And you sit down and you say, all right, how much money, how many deals, how many refinances, how many purchases, and then you start backing into how many realtors you need to get that, how many sales calls you need to make, right? And then it's how many coffees, and eventually you get to your number for the day. And this is how we used to do it. 20 years ago, we would plan out a day. Okay. So we would say basically, when I got into the business, it was a lead shop, and it was like every single day, how many phone calls do I need to make? How many credits do I need to pull? We had a big calendar, Patty nodding her head, right? We had a big calendar, and you wrote the name if you called them, and you put a check mark next to it if you pulled their credit. So as you can imagine, it was stressful because you had to hit that number every single day. I think I was going for 125 phone calls. Thank God we're not in that place right now. Thank God we don't have to make 125 phone calls a day. But so let me go back. I'm going to try and toggle back and forth between sharing my screen with y'all. So from the day planning, what we were coming up with was called dollar producing activities. That was the calls. That was the catchphrase, and that's been the catchphrase. Like, can I get a show of hands if you've heard that or worked in that? Dollar producing activities. Yeah, dollar producing activities, dollar producing activities. Okay. So then after that, it was basically as simple as measure. We called it results back then, but really what we were measuring was effort, right? We were measuring our daily effort. We were reporting daily. So we had some asshole that came over to our desk and said, how many credits did you pull today? I didn't call him an asshole. I was doing that. That was my job. But you'd be like, I pulled like 80 credits today. And they'd be like, well, you were supposed to pull 81. That's ridiculous. How'd you miss your number? Right. But anyway, you get to the end of the month and your leader would get up there and he would say, this is who closed the most amount of deals. Okay, this is who funded the most deals. This is who closed the most amount of deals. Let me just pause for a sec for engagement. So if y'all weren't working in a lead shop, can you relate this to whatever job you had at the time? Does this sound like remotely familiar to how it worked? Yeah. Who worked in sales? Yeah. Okay. Who was in, just out of curiosity, who was in mortgages in 2003? Okay. So y'all remember this if y'all were in mortgages in 2003. Okay. So this is kind of where we're taking this. And this is why we're taking it there. Okay. These are the tweaks that we're putting into place now. So let me go down to new. All right, new. We're still going to do goal planning at the beginning of the year. Instead of daily, instead of backing it all the way down, we're going to go to weekly. Okay. Weekly efforts. And instead of dollar producing activities, we're going to go to relationship producing activities. Okay. And then, well, I'll come back to that for a second. Okay. So why did we switch from dollar producing activities to relationship producing activities? Someone talk. I need a break from hearing my voice.
Because
relationships are going to produce the
last a
dollars.
lot longer than transactions.
Yep. Yeah, y'all have all seen them. You can see them coming a mile away. You got a salesman coming at you, and you can tell if they're trying to make a relationship with you or they're just trying to get paid, right? They would just want that deal. And I've seen so many loan officers that go looking for deals. I was taught it in the beginning. Go find a deal, go find a deal, go find a deal. Well, the activity that I would do today, if I had to find a deal today, is so much different than the activity I would do if I was trying to make a relationship. And guys, I will tell you, I'm 99D and I'm like 60I, which means my mind. Let me just hold on a sec. Share screen, close. Where's my disk? Hang on. HR, disk, Josh. Here we go. Can y'all see my screen? Okay. I'm 99D and I'm 63I, 65I. Okay. My disk tells me to go find deals and not find relationships. I was the guy that when I was selling, when I was a loan officer and I caught an eye on the other side of the phone, I knew that I would start my stopwatch and I would set it for 15 minutes. And I better stay on that phone with that person for 15 minutes because they were high eye and they needed the relationship. And I knew I could get everything I needed to accomplish on that phone call done in exactly 60 seconds flat. But that wasn't going to help me build a relationship with them, right? So I'd set it for 15 minutes. Anyway, I like to liken this part to actually the dating world, because I think building relationships with realtors is incredibly similar to dating. So the difference between dollar producing activities and relationship producing activities is you go to a bar and you're either looking to get laid, excuse my French, or you are looking to find a spouse, right? Very, very different approach to the bar. So help me out here. If you are just looking to get laid and you go to the bar, what do you do? Kenny, you're laughing. What do?
You buy drinks.
Buy drinks. Absolutely. You're probably going to skip steps, right? Yeah. We're not going to like take a whole lot of time to get to know one another. You're going to go looking for the easy, what did we used to call it? Low hanging fruit, right? Go looking for the low hanging fruit. Okay. Someone else, if you're looking to go to the bar and find an actual meaningful relationship, what do?
Don't go to the bar.
You don't go at the bar, yeah.
Okay, go to church. What do you want to go to a mixer? Talk to me. But what do you
Get
do?
them out of the bar so you can talk.
Yeah, you can
Get to know
talk.
each other.
Yeah,
Have
you can talk,
conversations.
right?
Right.
You're gonna ask them questions. You're gonna get to know them, right? You're gonna not close the deal too early or at all. You might not close the deal at all, right? That whole always be closing. Well, that's not going to help you with a relationship if you're thinking always be closing, right? You got to slow it down a little bit. Might have to stretch it out. You might have to have coffee like 10 times in a row before you close the deal. Y'all with me? Okay. So, why did we switch it from daily effort to weekly effort? Nobody?
Getting
For the
the
sake of
most
freedom, providing
that?
yourself with a little more flexibility.
Yeah. It's just too stressful. Honestly, it's too stressful. The other thing is if you're just tracking your relationship planning every single day, it doesn't allow for any time for when stuff goes wrong or when you got to work up deals, or when you-
Georgia.
whatever it is. Go ahead. Who is that? Someone keeps chiming in and it sounds like I can't actually hear what they said. I keep missing it. So I'll have to go back and check the recording. I'm not sure who it was. Anyway, it's too stressful. I'm like really keen on keeping my mind sharp and not stressed out. And if there's something simple I can do to give me some some time to just stay in the moment and be in my activities, that's going to be really important. And going from daily to weekly tracking was huge for me. So nowadays for my weekly tracking, it looks here. I'll show you what it looks like. We have kind of different versions. Let's see, share screen. Okay. So follow the plan. Let's see. This one's follow the plan change makers. This one's follow the plan President's Club. This one's follow the plan to get to be a $12 million producer. Okay, $12 million producer, follow the plan. So you mark, this is just tick marks, guys, right? It's just like how we used to do it. We used to do daily, and we used to do it off how many phone calls we made and how many credit pulls we made. Now we are going off of how many first calls and research, and then how many first calls and research to something that's not a realtor. And then I'm going to come to this, show value. This is a really, really important part, and I'm going to get to it. Then we track face-to-face appointments, and I will tell y'all face-to-face is by far the like most important thing in your world. It's the holy grail. Someone started off, I can't remember who it was, but someone said, I got 5 face-to-faces this week. That's it, baby. That's it. That's your whole world. Face-to-face. We call them coffee appointments, but it could be drinks. It can be, steak dinner. It can be anything. It can be lunch. It doesn't have to be a coffee. It can be a Zoom, by the way. If you're more comfortable over Zoom, it can be a Zoom. Then your next thing is your learning. So you need to consume a sales podcast or a mortgage podcast, mine your database, and then we get into your posting to Facebook. Okay. As we go up, if you were looking that I had a $12 million production, $25 million production, change maker, 75 million production. All you see is that the numbers just go up. We don't really add that many other tools in because our tools are very simple in the mortgage business. It's a very simple plan. There's not much to it, right? You have to call realtors. You have to take them to coffee. You have to make them like you. And then you have to start getting business from them eventually, right? You have to make a relationship with them. There's nothing to it. So, yes, absolutely. I can send it out to everybody afterwards. One of the steps, I'll come back to that. I'm actually going to come back to that. So, the next thing on the list, let me go back here. So we'll go back to the new versus old list here. It used to be so much better at bouncing around in here. Share screen. All right. So we're back here. All right. Now this is another difference that we threw in. So relationship producing activities are weekly efforts. All right. Here's the next one. And hopefully this either shocks some of you or pisses some of you off or get some good conversation. Okay. Throw out your goals. All right, I did it. I said it. Dump them. Throw them up, crumble it up, and toss it into the garbage. All right? Why? Someone tell me why. Why are we going to throw out the goals?
If you're going for relationship-based selling, it's about how many relationships you build, not the number of units. And if you build the relationship first, then it will produce today, tomorrow, and next week, and then into the future.
Thank you. I love it. That's 100% right. Yep. If you are focused on relationships, if you're focused on your effort, if you're focused on your social media, your plan, that will get you to whatever goal you could ever dream of. You don't have to think about the goal. If you sit there every single day and you focus on, I got to close 2 million this month. I got to close 2 million this month. I got to close 2 million this month. Guess what happens? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. You can sit there and stare at your goals for 3 hours a day. Is it going to help you? Is it going to do anything for you? No. And it actually hurts. And I'll tell you why. So I've been doing this for 21 years. I've been in leadership for 19 of the years. And one of the things that I like to really focus my time and effort on is people's mindset. And there's something called a bulletproof mentality that we really work on. And that's a fully resilient loan officer that can handle setbacks and keep on charging. Okay. So right now, one of the setbacks is the market. You've got like the news and the media and the stock market, and it's all jumbled up in your brain. And you have to be able to let it kind of slowly leak out the back and keep your head focused on what you need to do. And if you're too focused on goals, it can really, really mess you up. So I have this little story. Loan officer comes in. Let's just say his name's Ron. he comes into my office about 4.5 years ago. Okay. And he goes, Josh, I got to talk to you. Like, this is serious. I mean, this is really bad. Okay. And I'm like, what's up? What's up, dude? And he's like, I had an appraisal come in low. Okay. And I'm like, oh, okay, that happens. That's part of the business. Like, that's a thing we have to deal with. And he's like, no, you don't understand. And I'm like, okay, tell me. And he goes, well, this is an important agent and they're probably going to be really pissed off about this. I mean, they're going to be mad. And I think if I lose this agent, the other agents are going to find out about this. They're going to hear about it and they're not going to do business with me either. And he goes, and if that happens, like, my wife and I are probably going to go broke and bankrupt. And then I'm probably going to die. He didn't actually say all those things, but I could tell he was feeling it, right? That's what he was thinking. He was like, he had turned somehow in his brain, I've got a low appraisal into death, like 9 steps and then death. So I sat down and I was like, where are you, where are you getting this from? And what I really figured out is he was so focused on hitting $2 million that if anything went wrong, if one tiny little thing went wrong, he was broken, destroyed. And things go wrong, right? We have to allow for things to go wrong. I'm to the point now with our team that we put out the results at the end of the month. It goes in this order. Top of the results page is effort. And I go into Coach Simple and I pull their effort. I pull everybody's effort and I say, this is who made the most sales calls. This is who went to the most caravans. This is who went to the most open houses. Okay. Second part is the quality. I go in and I pull everybody's TPD figures, their dead in the water figures, their speed to closing, how many days they got to closing before the closing, how many days they got to CTC before the closing, right? This is our quality indicator. And then dead last is I put units and volume, because I don't want to dishearten people. I want people focused on effort all day long. You don't need to care about it. You don't need to care about how many loans you close. You don't need to care about your paycheck right now. It doesn't matter. When I got to Movement, I'd been at Wells Fargo for 5 years. I've been doing refinances. And I was like, man, I got to learn this relationship biz. I got to learn the realtor biz. And for the first 6 months, I told my wife, I said, I'm going to make $0 this for 6 months. 0. I'm not going to make a dime. All I'm going to do is have 15 coffees a week. That's it. Back then we did it a little different. It was called networking. And now I'm more of a value-based approach. Then I was heavy networking. So the definition of networking is you get together with someone and you introduce them to someone else. That's it. That's like really complicated. I hit 15 coffees 2 of those weeks in my first 6 months, but I put up a whole lot of 9s, 10s, 11s, and 12s. So I put up so many you wouldn't believe. In 6 months' time, I actually closed a ton of loans and I made a lot of money because I wasn't worried about closing loans and making money, right? It was not on my list, but it still comes. If you're out there popping off 15 coffees in a week, I guarantee you the results come. You don't have to worry about it. But after 6 months, I looked and I had I think I had 8 A realtors and probably 7 B realtors. It all paid off. And when I stopped producing 5 years later, I looked and I was still doing business with all of those realtors. Okay. I built that business in 6 months flat, and y'all can too. But you got to give up on making money and you got to give up on closing deals. It has to be about the relationships and only the relationships. That is it. Show value. Okay. So, last two, let me close this part and I'm going to start on a new set of, is this helpful, by the way? Can I get a head nod from anyone? You with me? Okay. That's good. I like that. All right. Share screen. Let's finish this one off. So last 2 parts of this that people tend to forget. So throw out your goals. This is a big one that people tend to forget. Okay. Track your efforts. Report your efforts. All right, Patty, like pure honesty. How many people on the team report out efforts? Did they report it to you, or do they have an accountability partner? Who do they report it to?
Some report to branch leaders, all
Okay.
have access to, what's the system that we input?
Coach Simple.
Coach Simple.
Yeah.
I would say 50% of the team actually track.
Could you almost draw a delineation down the line between those that track and those that don't track?
100%.
Yeah. This is it. This is everything. I mean, this is huge. The actual tracking. There's been so many studies done on the difference between tracking and not tracking, and then reporting and not reporting. You get like a 80% improvement by tracking, and then another 60% improvement on top of that just by reporting, having an accountability partner that you report to. And for whatever reason, new loan officers start off doing this, and about 6 months, when they get up to like 3 million a month, they stop doing it. And then they plateau, right? They plateau because they stop the accountability piece. The other thing, just in terms of tracking, if it's something that you do automatically, if it's something in your comfort zone, you don't have to track it. You do it automatically. Okay. If it's out of your comfort zone, you have to track it. If it's necessary for your business. So I kind of like, I have like kind of the introverts and the extroverts on my team. The extroverts, I don't have to tell them to go make calls. They're already doing it. They love making calls, right? A lot of times we have to tell them to like close the deal, like to ask for the business or something like that. They might not be getting to that point. Then you've got like Bogdan's staring at me. He's on my team. So Bogdan's more of an introvert, right? So he's got to track coffees. He has to track coffees face to face. Does Bogdan have to track Facebook? Absolutely not. He does it automatically. He's a great poster on Facebook. Kenny does not have to track Facebook because he's freaking hysterical on video. If y'all haven't watched Kenny's Facebook, by the way, he's one of the best I've ever seen. He's only been doing this for like 6 months, but he came from, well, how long? A year? He came from the realtor world. So he's just so good at video. It's unbelievable. I just go on and copy whatever he's doing because he's crushing it. Okay. So
I don't see Kenny on the screen. What's Kenny's last name?
Nguyen. Let's all take turns pronouncing it and see how many different
Win.
how many different versions we come up with.
Got it.
I say Kenny, all I do is win, no matter what. Right. So if it's natural for you, you don't have to track it. If you're getting out of your comfort zone, which getting out of your comfort zone is what leads to all the success in the world. I'm reading a book right now by Jocko. It's called Discipline Equals Freedom. Discipline equals freedom. It's very true. If your goal every single week is just to be in your comfort zone, we're going to have some problems, right? We're going to have money problems, success problems, relationship problems, because all of the hard work comes from being uncomfortable. All of the really good relationships come from being uncomfortable. You have to have real conversations with people. Okay. Okay. So next framework that I want to go over with y'all, share screen. This one is, I think I'm actually most excited about this one because it's changed so much from when I first got into the business, and that's our sales cycle. Okay. So the first sales cycle that I learned was called question-based selling. Old plan. Question-based selling. New plan. I'm going to coin it for y'all. And I'm going to call it value-based selling. Okay. So old plan. You've got research, the call, the coffee. Okay. And the coffee was broken down into 2 steps. The first step of the coffee was questions. And we used a framework back then called Frog. And the second step was going to be solutions. All right, so let me just stop there for a second. Let's go through it. Let's go through it with everybody. Anyone seen this? Anyone taking this training? Is this familiar to you? Question-based selling? No. Okay. Okay, good. Well, this could be some new stuff. So how I taught it and how I learned it was you make the call, you say, hey, I'm impressed with what you're doing. I think we have some things in common. Can I take you to coffee? Right? You're calling a realtor. Can I take you to coffee? And maybe it takes you 9 calls to get the yes. You got the yes, you got your coffee. Okay. You show up for the coffee, and the first 50 minutes of the coffee were 100% learning about them. You had to learn about them. Questions. Realtors will talk your ear off, and realtors will get to the end of an appointment where they talked for 60 minutes and they'll say, you know, Patrick was awesome. I love Patrick. He was great. That was a great conversation. And they talked the whole entire time. The other thing that's really cool about realtors is they will tell you, if you listen hard enough, they'll tell you exactly what you need to say to get their business. Okay. It's almost like, I don't know any other sales cycle in the world will they're literally just tell you. Like if someone showed up at my front door to sell a roof, if I were a realtor, I'd be like, listen, first you need to mention how much it costs in money. Second, you need to mention that it's a really smart investment. Third, you need to tell me that it's a really quality product. Just if you say those 3 things, I will give you my business. That's how realtors are. Okay. They just blab the keys, the answers. They tell you exactly what they need to do and say to get the business. Nothing else like it. So you sit down with them and you start off with questions about personal, right? Oh, I told y'all frog. Okay. What's frog? Anyone know what frog is? Family, recreation, occupation, goals. This is like a nice little framework just to remind yourself along the way of, you know, not to miss any steps. Okay. So we're going to talk about their family. Realtors always have a story about how they got into the real estate business. I've heard a different version of the same story about 1,000 million gazillion times. Okay. Then we're going to talk about what they do for fun. Right. And then it was goals. Then you got into goals. Then you got into business. And eventually you said, so what loan officer do you use? What experiences have you had with mortgage companies? What do you like that that loan officers do? What do you not like that loan officers do? What was your best experience you've ever had with a loan officer? What was your worst experience you've ever had with a loan officer? And eventually they're going to give you that in where they're going to be like, oh man, I had a bad one. And then you've got to start drilling them with questions on that. It does 2 things. 1, you're figuring out what you're going to tell them at the end. But 2, you're putting them into a more emotional state. You're putting them right back where they were when they were going through that trauma, because it's a really good place for decision making. Now you've got to making decisions with the right part of their brain instead of the left part of their brain. The right part of the brain is where you're making an emotional, like long lasting, strong, quick decision. The left part of the brain is going to be done with spreadsheets, right? If you don't ask the follow-up question, you're screwed. You're not going to get there. You've got to get to the follow-up, the need behind the need. I sat with a loan officer once on a sales call. His name was John Bramblett. I remember the guy's name. So I told him going into it, I was like, this is what you have to do. You have to ask him questions for 50 minutes. You have to listen really hard. And then for the last 10 minutes, you're going to tell him your story and you're going to solution for them for 10 minutes. You're going to give them the solutions. Okay. He goes, cool. So he goes in and he asks them a couple questions about personal. And then he goes, so what good experiences have you had with loan officers? And the person goes, man, loan officers, they're really bad about calling you back. And he goes, oh, you like to be called back? I can tell you that I call all my customers back within an hour. Every time they call me, I answer the phone on nights. I answer the phone on weekends. We have 30-year fix, C30. We have FHA. We have, we have a foundation that we give money to. And I have like a 90% closing rate. And I'm like 3 days between my clear to close and my closing. He threw up all over them. He just threw up on them like everything he could think to get to value. He just blabbed on them. And all he had to do was say, oh, that your loan officer didn't call you back. What does that do to your business? Like, what does that feel like? That's all he had to say. He had to go a little deeper with them. And the second you start talking with a realtor, guess what they do? Anybody? I haven't stopped to let someone talk for a little while. What do they do when you start talking?
They stop talking.
Yeah, they stop. And they don't just stop for like that moment. They stop for the whole entire coffee. They're done. They're cooked. When you start talking, they stop talking. Okay. Realtors are famous, especially high D realtors. They're famous for trying to control that conversation with you. And what they're going to say is, Jared, tell me about your business. Tell me about movement. And you have to ignore it. You got to go right back to them. You say, hey, look, we're going to talk about movement. I promise you, but I'm here to learn about you. I want to learn about you. And you can take it right back to asking them questions. Okay. So then let's get back into this framework. This is the old framework, mind you, but parts of it hold true. So back into this framework, you've got call, you've got coffee, questions, frog. Okay. Solutions is just the last 10 minutes where you say, look, tell me if this works for you. Okay. This is what I'm all about. This is what my company's all about. I answer the phone on nights and weekends. I make sure to do a full pre-approval so that you don't put anyone in your car that's not fully pre-approved. And I'm going to get you to the closing on time. I'm not going to let anything bad happen. I'm going to make you look really good. How would that work for you? And we were taught to close them right then and there. You close. Could we do business together? Or do you think, I don't know. Do you think this would help your business if I did this? Like whatever, pick a Zig Ziglar closing. We were taught in that very first meeting to close it at the end of it. And then we were taught to follow up. All right. So stop share. I'm actually going to pick on someone this time. Who haven't we heard from? Marcus. Marcus. All right.
Yes, sir. Yep.
So this isn't current state, but 5 years ago, what did follow up mean? What was follow up?
Follow up.
Yeah.
Phone
Like-
call. Phone call. And just, yeah, it was just a follow up phone call. And, just to find out if how things are going.
Yeah, how things are going. Exactly. Right. This is it. Okay. So Marcus is so right. This is what we used to call and say, hey, just checking in. Patty's nodding, right? Hey, just checking in. What that means is like, hey, do you have anything for me? Can you give me a deal? Right? We switched from fully relationship back to getting a deal. Like we went from relationship producing activities right back to dollar producing activities. Like, hey, you got anything for me? Or hey, just seeing how you're doing. How was your weekend? I've heard so many of these uncomfortable follow-up conversations, and eventually you stop doing it because it feels uncomfortable. Like it feels weird and it feels wrong, and you're just calling to say, hey, you got a deal for me? And then we stop doing it because it's awful. Like it feels awful. I mean, nod your head if you have someone right now that's calling on you, like an insurance agent, a title company, a recruiter, and they're saying that, like, hey, just checking in, seeing how you're doing, right? Does it do anything for you? Does it make you want to share or give them something?
It's very salesy and it's a turnoff.
It's salesy and it's a turnoff, and you can tell that they're in it for them, not for you, right?
Yeah.
Is that safe to say? Okay.
100%.
Okay. So we have redesigned this whole entire process, and we have stretched it out. And we have tried to take the salesiness out of it, and we have tried to place the emphasis on value and on relationships. So let's go in, and we're starting. What time is it, y'all? Oh, we're good. 10:10. Okay. So this is what we're doing now on my team, at least. Go back to it. Where's my screen? And then let's go to Word. Okay. So new plan, value-based selling. Okay, so we have our call, and let's go through, just for fun, let's go through a simple script for the first call. I do everything in my power to not make cold calls, but if you have to get 5 coffees in a week, you're probably going to run through a lot of relationships really quickly, right? I tell people that are new to go through their whole entire phone, and call and tell people they're in the mortgage business and they're looking to meet a great realtor, and then go through their whole entire Facebook and tell people new to the business, trying to make relationships. Can you introduce me to a realtor? And then we hit open houses, just trying to find realtors to take to coffee. And now we're doing caravans. We're back in the caravan world. By the way, I absolutely love caravans. Caravan is the only place in the world where we get to sit there in a house and the realtors come to us. It's the best event on the planet. You call your realtors and you say, look, I want to host your caravan. I'm going to bring coffee, or I'm going to bring champagne and cookies. And you just sit there and you grab business cards and you have a whole list of people to follow up with that are not cold calls. They're warm calls. But in the event that you do have to make a cold call, when you run out of warm calls to make, you don't just stop, right? You have to make the cold calls because you got to get your 5 coffees, 8 coffees, 10 coffees, 11 coffees, depending on what your goals are, is how many coffees you need to have in a week. So the cold call is very simple. Hey, I saw you online. I was checking you out. I saw your numbers. I saw all of the work you're doing on MMI, and I read some reviews about you, and it looks like you are an absolutely amazing real estate agent. And it also looks like you're going to work right through this shift. I would love to sit down and pick your brain a little bit. I promise you, I will not sell. I will not mention my mortgage company. I just would love to chop it up a little bit. I'd love to just find out how you got here. Okay. And that's going to work sometimes and it's not going to work sometimes, but it's not salesy at all. And you better have done the research, because a lot of them will be like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And you better be ready to say, well, you know, I know you're a family person. I know you went to Auburn. I know you volunteer with Wounded Warriors. I know you closed 10 million. Like they'll check up to make sure it's not just a little sales tactic. So I always have it ready. And then you're going to get a bunch of people that say, yeah, you can take me to coffee. Absolutely. Especially right now, business is down a little bit. So you're getting your coffee. First coffee looks like this. I do not want the mortgage company mentioned. I do not want how good you are at closing loans mentioned. I do not want your foundation mentioned. The most you can do is tell your story about how you got into mortgages. You can talk about your family. You can talk about your hobbies. We've given up on frog, and we now use something called Ford, F-O-R-D. So it's still family occupation, recreation, but we've replaced goals with dreams. Goals with dreams. Goals is a spreadsheet answer. It's a list. It's a like concrete left-brained answer. Dreams is like where you get over to the fun stuff, the right brain stuff, their why, their dreams, what makes them tick. What are they really in it for? Why do they really do this? Why do they wake up every day? Is it for the money? Is it not for the money? Okay. So
and Josh, let me just say something there.
Yeah.
That's difficult to do, right? It's difficult to take a realtor to lunch or coffee and talk about movement and not talk. I have the same struggles taking realtors to a 20-minute coffee. It's so difficult for me to bite my tongue and not say how incredible the company is and the foundation. It's very, very difficult to do. So I just wanted to chime in and say that, because you have to go in knowing you're not going to do that. It's a struggle.
It's really hard. And they'll keep setting you up for it. They'll keep asking you questions, and you have to be like, look, I want to do this in the right order. It's so important to me that I learn about you, and I learn about what makes you tick, and I learn about your business before I start talking about me. We were going to get to that, right? We're going to check for alignment. I'm going to tell you all about me. I promise. I'm going to tell you about movement. I'm going to tell you about our foundation, but I don't want to skip steps, and I want to make sure that I learn all about you first. There's one. There you go. So, so I generally will get through that whole entire coffee, and I take notes, and I ask them if it's okay to take notes. And I will not have presented to them. And it gives me an excuse to say at the end of the coffee, oh man, we ran out of time, and I really wanted to check for alignment. And I wanted to tell you some of the things that make me tick. I wanted to tell you about my why, and I wanted to tell you about movement. Is it okay if we book another appointment? Okay. So you're actually stretching it out. What we used to do in one sitting, we're stretching it out into 2 or 3 sittings. And it's the point is relationships. That is the point. The point is relationships. Okay. Patty mentioned Hung Lee, by the way. I would never put Hung Lee in front of like 100 people because it makes him uncomfortable. But if you sit there one-on-one with Hung, you're gonna like in 20 minutes time, you're gonna feel close to him. You're gonna feel like he cares, and he's gonna give you something amazing of value that you didn't even ask for and you didn't know you wanted. He's amazing at it. He's a natural. He's an absolute natural. He is not what we used to call a salesperson. He's a relationship builder, and he's really, really, really good at it. Okay. He's super good at it. Anyway, so first coffee goes by. I walk out to my car and I am furiously writing notes in my 3-ring binder where I keep really good notes on every realtor that I'm meeting with. I have a terrible memory. It is awful. But when I walk in for that next appointment, you better believe I'm going to remember everything because I'm going to have just reviewed my notes before I walked into the appointment. Okay. I've got it all. I know their kids' names. If they mention birthdays, anniversaries, something they're working on with their business, any openings that I have to give them some solutions, I'm all over it. I've got the notes down. Second appointment comes in. Okay. If you need to finish up on asking them questions, do it. But now it's really your turn to shine. And the keyword for this second appointment is alignment. Okay. Alignment. Instead of closing, we're checking for alignment. We're seeing if we get along. We're seeing if we care about the same things. Okay. And this is where I hope each of y'all will have a chance to tell a story. So you're talking about what's important to you. You're talking about your why. Okay. And if your why is to make money, might not want to go on the appointment. Okay. You might not want to go on the appointment. Your why should probably be to give back, to have influence, to help the underserved, to help realtors, to change lives. It needs to be something more in that outer place. That's the only thing that is attractive to people. It's the only thing sticky to people. Okay. If I told my gang of loan officers, I need y'all to close a bunch of loans because I need to make money this month. Oh man, terrible, right? I need them. I don't care if they close a bunch of loans. I want them to have an amazing life. That's it. That's my job. I want them to have an amazing life, both business and personal. Okay. So let's talk about storytelling for a second. So the best way you can get your point across about your why or about the things that are important to you, your core values, is through storytelling. You're generally going to have a few stories that you go to in these situations. When you're down to your second coffee, you're going to tell these stories over and over and over and over and over again. Okay. Tim Shepard, you got a few stories that you tell each time?
Yeah. Story about how I got into the business. It's how I got in a little bit unconventionally. So it doesn't typically, it's not the norm. And then I talk about, a lot of times I'll talk about like what I've experienced in the past. So, and that is a good segue into why I'm here. Like it's just, there's not a lot of people that have kind of been down the road that I've been down. Got out of the business for a while, realized I hated it. And didn't realize I hated this business. I realized I hated what I was doing when I got out. And so I kind of talk around that story a little bit, and it really has nothing to do with selling me. It's just telling them what I'm about and where I've been.
I love it. Yeah. So this is my one advice on stories is practice it. Practice. The story is going to be the most important part of that hour, and you want it to resonate. You want to be able to sit down with someone a year later and they kind of remember that story that you told them, right? So how do you do that? Does anyone know? It's hard, right? It's really hard. How do you tell a good story? Well, what I have been taught to do is just borrow Hollywood, and Hollywood tells a story the same way every single time. There's a beginning, there's a middle where there's a problem, and then there's a solution where the problem is overcome. So I guarantee Tim kind of just did it. He's like, it sucked before and now it's great, right? We got a problem, we got to fix it, and now it's great. beginning, middle, end. And I'm sure that's a much longer story. It's a 10-minute story, right? But you find ways to get it to resonate. The other thing that I realized, I was working with my coach and I'm telling him some of my stories, and he goes, Josh, you keep leaving out the details. I would tell a story about this conference that I went to, and there were 3 guys up on stage. And he goes, where was the conference? I go, what does that matter? What does it matter where the conference is? And he goes, the details are everything. The details are what makes it memorable. The best storytellers in the world, the best book writers in the world give all the details. Ernest Hemingway could do 40 pages on what the fisherman looked like in The Old Man and the Sea. He could do 40 pages just describing his physical appearance. Okay. So I had to go back and say, well, I don't even remember where it was. Oh, it's in Tampa. So now I don't leave that out every single time. It was in Tampa. It was at the so-and-so, the Rosen Leaf Hotel in Tampa. Okay. And who was on stage? Oh, Steve, John, and Zach. I added the details into my story, and it's amazing how much more it resonates with people when you give them the details. You're trying to do a Hollywood movie here. You want it to be memorable. Okay. So anyway, in this second coffee, you're going through your core beliefs, you're going through your why, you're going through what you care about. And then at the end, this is our new close. Do you think we're in alignment? And the answer is always yes. Okay. The answer is always yes. I think we're in alignment. So now I want you to try to ignore the what you want to do, which is say, will you send me business? And this is our new proposition that we've got. The new proposition is, hey, I think we're in alignment. I tell you what, whether you send me business or not, I'm going to start pouring value into you, and I'm going to show you what it's like to be on my team. Okay. I guarantee you they've never heard this before. They haven't heard this before.
Say that again. What, can you say that last line again?
Yep.
Please?
Whether you send me business or not, I'm putting you on my team and I'm going to show you value. Okay. I'm going to do my best to help you grow your business. I'm going to be here to help. I'm not just going to be here with my hand out waiting for you to send me a deal. I'm going to help you. Okay. So then every single week, Bogdan, Kenny, guys on my team here, Daryl, we send out some ideas for how to show value to your realtors, because everybody else is checking in. Everybody else is like, hey, how's it going? How you been? What's new? Right. And we're calling and we're like, hey, I got an idea for you. Here, I got a fun one. I got a fun way of doing this. Nick Anusbigian.
Yeah, you
How's it
nailed it.
pronounced?
You nailed it.
Got
by
it.
the way.
Okay. My question for you, can I do anything for you today?
Yeah.
Most of the time they say no, you just backfired on me. So anyway, most of the time when you call someone and you say, can I do anything for you today? They're like, no. Okay. So try it again. Can I do anything for you today?
No, man, I'm good. What's up?
Okay. So Nick, I just heard something really, really good that I think could help you grow your business. Can I tell you about it real quick? Do you have a few minutes?
Tell me.
Yeah. Very big difference there, right? So follow-up used to be, can I do anything for you? And now we're switching to value. Give them value every week. Value comes in many different forms, right? So you got motivation, tactical, which is what I'm trying to give y'all, tactical value, right? You got appreciation, you're sending them stuff, you're sending them t-shirts, you're sending them books, tactical and appreciation, sending them books, like you're putting the two together, right? Sometimes you just want to be there for them, be a shoulder to cry on if they're stressed out. That's value. These are all value. It used to be 10 years ago when I got in this business, my value was, I'm going to be really good at closing that loan. I'm not going to let you down. That was it. That's all we had to do. Nowadays, you got to do so much more. You absolutely have to do more. You have to be there to help them. You have to tell them about the foundation. You have to show up for them. You have to come up with ideas for how to help them with marketing. Kenny, what's your number one value for realtors right now?
Helping them with video.
Yeah. Kenny teaches them how to do video. He shows up, He gets them uncomfortable. He shows up with all this fancy video equipment. He's like, puts them on screen. Boom. Then he sends them the video afterwards. Value. That's value. It's huge value. Amazing value. We had Libby is my number one producer on my team. She had a whole class on Wednesday on social media for her realtors. What's that? Value. The name of the game. Value add. That's what I'm trying to do with my team. That's what you should try to do with your realtors. How can you value them? And if it's hard to come up with something every other week, every week's probably too much. If it's hard to come up with something every other week, just ask the other people, ask your leader. They'll give you ideas. It's not that hard. This is also why we listen to podcasts. I try to listen to a loan officer and a realtor podcast every single week so that if they're not listening to it, I could just regurgitate it like it came from me, and that's my value, right? I listen to a ton of Gary Vee, an absolute ton of Gary Vee. I think he's amazing. I think he's the best thing out there right now. I'm like infatuated with this guy. So let's borrow from Gary Vee for a second. So let's say you're getting like months in, okay? Value. Haven't got any business. What do you say? Gary Vee says something called hook, jab. Value, what a hook, jab is value, close, or ask for the business. Value. We don't know who Gary Vee is, Chelsea.
Has what I provided to you helped you at all?
That's it. Amy, you're 100% right. And if it's not, is there something that would be more valuable? Is there something more helpful? By the way, a lot of loan officers think that their value is just to give them money. That is not on my value list. Okay. I might give my top agent a little bit of money to help with leads or something like that, but we got to get out of that world of them thinking that our value is our money. It is not our money. Our value is things that we can do for them. Gary Vee is Gary Vaynerchuk. He's the number one creator in the social, whatever. What am I trying to say? Social media creator of all time. And he's big
an
in NFTs too. Influencer. Yeah, he's huge. He talks about all this same stuff. Anyway, hook, jab. So you're not getting any business. Instead of calling and saying, will you send me business? We're trying to stay out of the salesiness, right? We don't want to be in the salesiness. So you just call and you say, look, has this stuff been valuable at all?
Which leads to more conversation.
Yeah. What can I do that's more valuable? Absolutely. What can I do that's more valuable? And then if that still doesn't work, I might call and say, hey, you're going to send me a deal or what? Right? Shit or get off the pot. I would say it then because I'm about done with them and I'm going to move on to showing value to other people that are actually want my value. Right? Okay. So let's stop for questions because we're getting towards the end. What do y'all think about this? Is this different than what you're doing now? Yes, no. A lot of yeses. Okay. Do you think it will work? Do you think it'll not work? Beat me up. I got a head nod. Talk to me.
I think the approach is great. I like the whole relationship aspect. Obviously, everybody says it. It's not like we've not heard that before, but you put a lot of flesh to the bones. So I really appreciate even just that what you say to these agents, and even the last part right now where you're hook, jab, and like Amy said, or Gary Vee, whoever. But it's almost
did
like
I say hook, jab? It's jab, hook.
I was thinking
hook.
as a boxing fan, I was like hook, jab's pretty bad, but whatever he's got, I'll listen to.
Y'all got to correct me when I screw that up.
Manny Pacquiao might pull that off, but not Floyd Mayweather. But I was talking to a wrestling coach this weekend. He's wrestling at Montclair State. That's program is done with, but he always said he never burned the bridge. He always, he'll take in a wrestler who said no to him, who wants to transfer back, closer to home, that sort of thing, and do wonders with him because he never burned the bridge. So is there ever a point where you're with a real estate agent, you're just like, okay, I'm done with them, unless they're, I don't know.
Yeah. I'm a high D, I'm 99D, right? So I would call and I would say, hey, listen, I don't think it's working. I'm not giving you the right value and someone else is. And I would say, I'm going to move on. But if you change your mind, let me know. It's a very simple conversation. This whole entire sales process falls under one premise and one like ultimate premise. I'm going to write it down. Share screen. Word. So this is our premise right here. If I show you more value than your current loan officer, then why wouldn't you work with me? That's the premise. And that is super, super powerful. Like extremely powerful. This is how I've started recruiting too, by the way. So I sit down with a loan officer and I say, hey, like once we check for alignment, look, whether you come work on my team or not, I'm going to start showing you value. Every single thing that I show to my team, I'm going to show to you as well. I'm going to give it all to you, every bit. And it works under the premise that if I start showing them more value than their current leader, guess what? Right? So it works. A lot like most, we already said that most loan officers stop at, I answer the phone nights and weekends and I close deals well. That's where they stop. And then they say, hey, how you been? It's not that hard to beat them out on the value game. It's not hard at all. Send them some motivational quotes. Send them some actually don't send them podcasts. Regurgitate the podcast in your own words. Like you don't have to say like you came up with it, but give them the idea yourself. I actually have a little bit of a problem with our playbooks because of that. I think the value then becomes the playbook, not the giver of the playbook. I would much rather see y'all open up the playbook, steal all the ideas, and then sit down with them for coffee and tell them the ideas. I think that's way more powerful than handing them the playbook, which they could get from any loan officer on our team. You're the value. I want y'all to be the value, not the playbook to be the value. Okay, that makes sense? All right. I think we're at a good stopping point.
Josh, I do have one question before we go.
Please.
Is there any way, I'm very talkative. I'm really good at making the relationships. For some reason, I'm not closing the deals. Do you have any advice for once you're in the circle, once you've made the contact, what you do next?
Don't close the deal. That's my advice. Don't close the deal. So be patient, but at the same, and if you are showing them value, you earn the right to ask them if it's the right type of value. If you're not currently showing them value, if you're just calling and chatting with them because you're high I, you're like 99 I, and you're so comfortable like calling and, hey, what's going on? You're chatting with them, right? My advice for you is show value. That's it. Show value. Call and chat with them, but you better bring a good idea to the table. I was sitting with Hung Lee a couple of years ago and he goes, I got this cool idea. I got this great idea. I was like, okay, what is it? He goes, I sit down at the Starbucks with them, with the realtor, and I put my credit card down and I tell the barista, I'm going to pay for their coffees for the next hour, whoever comes through here. And if they ask who paid for the coffee, just tell them to, point over in the corner and tell them there's a realtor over there, a local realtor over there. Okay. So Hung Lee's sitting there with the realtor and everybody's like waving, oh, thanks for the coffee. Thanks for the coffee. And a couple people come over and they go, hey, are you a realtor? And they're like, yeah, I'm a realtor. And they're like, I'm looking to buy or sell. And Hung Lee just made 2 leads for that realtor. Okay. What's that called? What's the word?
Value.
Value.
Yeah, he gave them value, but he also gave me value in telling me about the idea. He didn't have to tell me about the idea. He told me about it. So, Alan, there's like this tiny little difference between the relationship and a value added relationship. Very tiny, but we're looking to make friends, right? We want to be invited to the birthday party and the barbecue and all that, but we also want to be thought of as a value add. That might be the missing link for you. And once you've done it, then you have to put a little starch into it and you have to make them a little uncomfortable and you have to say, hey, am I giving you the right value? Is the stuff I'm giving you valuable? That's your close. They know what it means. They know what it means. Like you haven't said any business is what you're saying. They know that. Okay. But we don't want to get there because that turns it into that turns it into about deals instead of about relationships. So we try as hard as we can not to get there. Who else? I'm only looking at one screen. Oh man, there's like 2 other pages. Michael Cochran, have you been here the whole time?
Yes, sir, man.
I stared at that one screen the whole entire time. I didn't know that there were another 2 pages of people. This is hysterical. Hey guys, it's good seeing everybody. I'll learn to click that arrow on the left or the right next time. I apologize. All right, we're at a good stopping point. Hope that was valuable to y'all, and appreciate y'all. Hope y'all tear it up.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Josh.
Josh.
Thank you a lot.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
That's really good.